The conference room was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. Ambassador Jake Morrison sat at the table with his fingers tapping slowly on the smooth surface. His assistant Lisa Chen was next to him looking at her electronic notepad. Across from them sat the Zelthari delegation. They were a species that looked like giant insects with hard shells covering their bodies. They made clicking sounds as they whispered to each other in their own language. The Zelthari were warriors who had conquered 300 star systems. They were proud of their military power and did not like to negotiate with others. High Commander Zekthrol was the leader of their group. His mouth parts clicked together as he spoke. Your demands are not acceptable. Humans have no right to the Kepler system. We claimed it by conquest. That is our right. Jake leaned back in his chair and smiled. Commander, with respect, you claimed an empty system, but our archaeological teams were already there. They arrived first. Zekthrol made an angry hissing sound. Archaeological teams are not military presence. By galactic law, they do not establish territorial claims. Jake nodded slowly. That is true. But they were peaceful civilians doing research. Your fleet arrived and immediately started building military bases. That is aggression by any definition. The discussion went on for another hour. They kept arguing about the same points over and over. The Zelthari refused to change their position. Jake stayed calm and presented his arguments with endless patience. Lisa took notes and occasionally whispered suggestions that Jake used in his responses. Then Zekthrol made a terrible mistake. Perhaps if humans were not so weak and soft, they would understand that the galaxy respects only strength. Your kind hides behind words and counsels because you lack the courage for real conflict. The tapping of Jake's fingers stopped. His smile stayed on his face, but something changed in his eyes. Lisa looked at him and quietly closed her notepad. Around the chamber, the observers from other species suddenly became very alert. A Varelian diplomat near the back actually stood up and walked quickly toward the exit. Commander, Jake said in a pleasant voice, I have been very patient with you today. Zekthrol misunderstood the moment. Patient? Humans are always patient. Always talking. Never acting. This is why you will never be a true power in the galaxy. Jake's fingers started tapping again, but the rhythm was different now. It was faster and sharper. Now I am really getting annoyed. The Varelian diplomat ran out of the chamber. Several other species representatives quickly followed. Even some of the Zelthari honor guards began shifting nervously near the doors. The Zelthari delegation looked around confused by the sudden departure of so many people. What is happening? Zekthrol began to ask. Jake stood up slowly and carefully gathered his materials. Lisa, please send authorization code Morrison Theta 7 to Terra Fleet Command. Already done, sir. Lisa replied as her fingers moved quickly across her datapad. What is this? Zekthrol demanded as he rose to his full height. What are you doing? Commander, you have been negotiating with me for 6 hours. 6 hours of patience and diplomatic courtesy and carefully worded suggestions. That is 6 hours you did not spend paying attention to where the 7th Fleet was moving. A tactical display appeared above the conference table showing the Kepler system. Red markers showed Zelthari positions. Blue markers for human ships began appearing. There were many blue markers. They surrounded the Zelthari fleet completely on all sides. The 7th Fleet took position 4 hours ago, Jake explained as if discussing the weather. My orders were to give you every opportunity to reach a peaceful solution. You chose to call humanity weak instead. He picked up his briefcase. Now you have 30 minutes to leave Kepler before the fleet opens fire. I suggest you move quickly. Humans might be patient, Commander, but when we get annoyed, we get very efficient. Zekthrol stared at the display. His mouth parts worked, but no sound came out. The Zelthari fleet was completely outgunned and trapped. You were stalling. All this time you were just stalling. I was trying to help you save face, Jake corrected as he walked toward the door. 29 minutes now. As they left the chamber, Lisa leaned close to Jake. Do you think they will leave in time? Of course, Jake replied. They are warriors, not fools. Besides, I gave them 30 minutes when they only need 15. See? Patient to the end. Behind them, they could hear the Zelthari delegation scrambling for their communication equipment and shouting evacuation orders to their fleet. The lesson, as always, was clear. Do not mistake human patience for weakness, and definitely do not make them announce they are getting annoyed. Because when a human says those words, it means the trap is already set. The preparation is already complete. The winning move has already been made. All that remains is for the other side to realize they have already lost. The Zelthari fleet began evacuating immediately. Their ships powered up their faster-than-light engines and jumped away from Kepler one by one. Within 25 minutes, the system was empty of all Zelthari presence. The human archaeological teams continued their work undisturbed. The 7th Fleet maintained position for another week to ensure the Zelthari did not return. They did not return. Word spread quickly through the Zelthari military command about what had happened. High Commander Zekthral was removed from his position for incompetence. He had walked into a diplomatic meeting thinking it was a negotiation. He did not realize it was a carefully constructed trap. He thought human patience meant human weakness. He learned too late that human patience was simply human strategy. They talked while their fleet moved into position. They negotiated while they prepared for every possible outcome. They gave warnings while they loaded their weapons. And when they finally said they were annoyed, it meant all the pieces were in place. Back on the council station, Jake and Lisa sat in a small cafe having coffee. "That went well," Lisa said. "Better than expected," Jake agreed.
Do you think they learned anything?
"I think they learned not to call humans weak. I think they learned that patience is not the same as weakness. I think they learned that when we say we are annoyed, it means we have already won." Lisa smiled. "The whole galaxy is learning that lesson." "Good," Jake said. "The more species that understand it, the fewer conflicts we have to resolve with force. Patience works much better when everyone knows there is a limit to it." They finished their coffee and returned to their duties. There were other negotiations to attend, other diplomatic situations to resolve. Jake would be patient with all of them. He would negotiate in good faith. He would seek peaceful solutions, right up until the moment someone mistook that patience for weakness. Then he would get annoyed, and everyone who understood what that meant would very wisely run away. The trading post at Zephyr Station was always busy. Ships came and went carrying goods from 1,000 different worlds. Merchant Carl Henderson ran a small business from Bay 17. He sold human agricultural products like apples and wheat and coffee and chocolate. Simple things, but they sold very well. The galaxy had developed a strong taste for Earth food. "You again?" Carl said without looking up from his inventory pad. "I told you yesterday the price stands. 20 credits per kilogram for coffee beans. That is already below market rate." The Greshik trader was a short amphibious creature named Kulak. He made a gurgling sound of protest. 20 credits is robbery. I offer 12. Then you will get coffee from someone else, Carl said. He finally looked up with a neutral expression on his weathered face. "Which you will not, because I am the only supplier on this station and the next shipment is not due for 3 weeks. 20 credits. This had been going on for 2 days. Kulak would come in and try to negotiate lower prices. Carl would refuse. Kulak would leave. Then he would return 6 hours later to try again. It was becoming a predictable routine. 15 credits, Kulak said. My final offer. 20, Carl repeated. You can take it or leave it. You humans are always so stubborn, so inflexible. This is not how civilized beings conduct trade. Carl set down his pad. You have been coming here twice a day for 2 days wasting my time with the same conversation. You know the price. You know I will not change it. You know you will eventually pay it, because you need that coffee for the restaurant you are opening. So why are we still having this discussion? It is the way of negotiation, Kulak explained as if this made perfect sense. We haggle, we find middle ground. This is tradition. Not with me, it is not, Carl said and returned to his inventory. 20 credits or walk away, Kulak left. 6 hours later he returned. 13 credits, he announced. A very generous offer. Carl did not even look up. 20. You are impossible to work with. No wonder humans have such trouble in galactic commerce. We have trouble because we do not waste 3 days playing games, Carl replied. Now I am really getting annoyed, Kulak. The other merchants in the bay suddenly became very interested in their own work. A Thracian at the next stall actually started closing up shop early. A Varelian who had been browsing Carl's produce quietly backed away. Kulak was new to the station and unfamiliar with humans. He noticed none of this. Annoyed? What does that matter? Business is business. Carl closed his inventory pad with a loud click. He stood up from his stool and walked to the corner where a communication terminal sat. He began typing. What are you doing? Kulak asked. Messaging the Merchant Guild, Carl replied calmly. Specifically the Greshik trade representatives. You see, Kulak, humans keep extensive records. We document everything. So right now I am filing a formal complaint about your business practices. Harassment. Time wasting. Refusal to accept clear pricing. This will go into the guild database under your name. Kulak's skin changed color, showing confusion. A complaint? For negotiating? I am also sending a notice to all human merchants in this sector, Carl continued while still typing. Standard practice when we get annoyed. It is a simple bulletin. Your name, your behavior, and a recommendation to charge you double the standard rate for any future transactions. That is if they sell to you at all. You cannot do that, Kulak protested. That is blacklisting. It is information sharing, Carl corrected. Humans are very good at information sharing. We have networks, databases, communication systems you would not believe. Right now, every human merchant within 10 light years is learning your name. He turned back to face Kulak. Here is something you should know about humans. We are patient. We will negotiate in good faith. We will make fair deals and honor our contracts. But when we say we are getting annoyed, it means the patience is over. You do not get warnings after that. You get consequences. Kulak's skin had gone pale. The Greshik traded extensively with humans. Coffee, chocolate, wheat, and dozens of Earth products that were now galactic favorites. Being blacklisted from human trade networks would be devastating for his business. Wait, Kulak said quickly. 20 credits. I will pay 20 credits per kilogram. Carl paused at his terminal. Too late. You had days to make that decision. Now the price is 25 credits. 25. But that is robbery. That is the annoyed price, Carl said. Take it or leave it. But if you leave, that complaint still goes out. Your choice. Kulak stared at the human merchant, finally understanding the situation. The relaxed behavior, the patient responses, the warnings, all of it had been genuine courtesy, and he had mistaken it for weakness. 25 credits, Kulak agreed quietly. For the full shipment, smart choice, Carl said. He deleted the complaint draft but kept the merchant bulletin. That would stay active for a while as a reminder. Payment up front. I will have it loaded within the hour. As Kulak transferred the credits and left, the Thracian merchant from the next stall leaned over. You know, Henderson, you really are terrible at making friends. Carl smiled. I am not here to make friends. I am here to sell coffee. And now everyone knows not to waste my time haggling. He pulled up his inventory again. That is efficient business. The human way. Word spread quickly through Zephyr Station. The human merchant in Bay 17 was patient and fair, but you did not want to push him too far. And you definitely did not want to hear him say he was getting annoyed. It was a lesson the galaxy was learning, one transaction at a time. Kulak returned to his new restaurant and opened for business 2 weeks later. His coffee was excellent because Carl's beans were the best available. But Kulak never tried to haggle with a human merchant again. He told the story to other Greshik traders. Always pay the asking price with humans. Always honor your agreements. Never waste their time. And most importantly, if they say they are getting annoyed, apologize immediately and give them whatever they want. Because humans who are annoyed stop being merchants and become something much more dangerous. They become humans with a purpose. And a human with a purpose will find a way to make you regret every decision that led to that moment. Carl continued his business at Bay 17 for many years. He made good profits. He developed a reputation for fair dealing and excellent products. But he also had a reputation for being someone you did not annoy. Other merchants respected him. Some feared him a little. All of them understood that human patience was real, but it had limits. And when those limits were reached, humans did not get angry or violent. They simply got efficient. They used their networks and their records and their systematic approach to problems. They made the cost of annoying them far greater than the benefit of whatever had caused the annoyance in the first place. This was the human way in commerce. Be fair, be patient, be willing to negotiate, but never be weak. Never let others mistake patience for inability to act. And when action became necessary, make it swift and make it memorable. Make it something that would be talked about and remembered. Make it a lesson that other merchants would learn from without having to experience it themselves. Carl's handling of Kulak became one of those lessons. It was told in trading posts across the sector. It became a cautionary tale about what happens when you push a human merchant too far, and so the galaxy continued to learn. Humans were excellent trading partners. They were honest and reliable. They delivered quality goods at fair prices. But they expected the same in return. They expected respect for their time. They expected honoring of agreements. They expected basic courtesy. Give them these things and trade with humans was profitable and pleasant. Deny them these things and discover what an annoyed human could accomplish with a computer terminal and a communication network. The choice was always yours. The consequences were always predictable. The research vessel Unity drifted in the darkness between star systems. Its sensors swept the void looking for anything interesting. Dr. Helen Martinez stood on the observation deck, watching the stars through the viewport while drinking terrible coffee from the ship's recycler. "Found something," pilot Greg Foster announced from the bridge. "Debris field bearing 270. Looks fresh." Helen set down her coffee and headed for the bridge. The Unity was a small ship with civilian registration. It had 5 scientists and 2 support crew. They specialized in surveying uncharted systems, looking for anything humanity might find useful. Debris fields were always worth investigating. "What kind of debris?" Helen asked as she studied the sensor displays. "Ship fragments. Multiple vessels. Energy signatures indicate a battle may be 3 days old." Greg highlighted several larger pieces. "Those look like escape pods. Some still have active beacons." Helen frowned. "This sector is supposed to be uninhabited. Who is fighting out here?" "Only one way to find out. Should we investigate?" "We are obligated to check for survivors," Helen said as she pulled up the communication station. "But let us be careful. Greg, take us in slowly. Everyone else follow standard rescue protocols. If those pods have life signs, we recover them." The Unity approached the debris field with caution. The wreckage was extensive. Pieces of at least 7 different ships were scattered across a large area of space. Some of the hull fragments had markings Helen recognized. Draknor pirate clans. "Pirates," she said quietly. "Great, what were they attacking out here?" "Those pods have Quellan signatures," Greg reported. "Civilian transport crew from the looks of it. The Quellan were a peaceful species, mostly traders. They would not have stood any chance against Draknor pirates." Helen's jaw became tight. "Recover the pods. All of them." They spent the next 2 hours pulling escape pods from the wreckage. 17 survivors, all Quellan, all traumatized. The pirates had destroyed their transport ship and left them to die in the cold of space. Helen met with the surviving captain in the Unity's small medical bay. The Quellan was named Vess. His scales were dull with stress and his breathing organs fluttered weakly. "Thank you," Vess said quietly. "We thought no one would come." "What happened?" Helen asked gently. "Draknor raiders. They ambushed us at the jump point. We tried to run, but they were too fast." Vess's voice became quieter. "They took everything. Our cargo. Our valuables. Then they destroyed the ship just for entertainment." "Do you know which clan?" Helen asked. She was already making mental notes. "This would need to be reported. Warlord Kresh's fleet. 7 ships. They control this whole sector now." Vess looked up at her. "You should leave. Your vessel is small and unarmed. If they find you here, they will do the same to you." "We will be fine," Helen assured him, though privately she shared his concern. "Rest now. We will get you to a safe port." She returned to the bridge and pulled up the sector map. Kresh's territory had been expanding lately. 7 ships was a large fleet for a pirate warlord. Greg plot a course to the nearest station. "Contact," Greg interrupted. His voice was tight. 3 ships bearing 185. They are on an intercept course. Helen felt her blood go cold. "Draknor?" confirmed. "They are powering weapons." The Unity's communication system made a crackling sound. A harsh voice translated by the ship's computer filled the bridge. "Human vessel. This is Warlord Kresh. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resist and you die." Helen stared at the tactical display. 3 Draknor raiders against 1 unarmed research ship. The situation was simple and brutal. But she had spent 5 years studying military history before switching to archaeology. She knew something Kresh apparently did not. She opened a channel. "Warlord Kresh, this is Dr. Helen Martinez of the Earth research vessel Unity. We are conducting a rescue operation. Stand down and let us pass." Kresh's laughter was cruel. "A human giving me orders? Your species is weak and soft. You will surrender or I will take your ship by force." Helen's expression did not change, but her fingers moved to a specific control panel. Every Earth vessel, even civilian ones, had certain standard equipment. Most species did not know about it. "Warlord Kresh," she said carefully. "You attacked a civilian transport. You left survivors to die in vacuum, and now you are threatening a rescue vessel." She paused.
Now I'm really getting annoyed. Greg's eyes went wide.
He knew what that phrase meant. Every human did. He quietly began backing the Unity away from the pirate ships while keeping the communication link open. "Annoyed," Kresh said. He sounded amused. "Human, you should be terrified. My fleet has destroyed hundreds of ships. Your little research boat is nothing. Your fleet has 3 ships currently in this area, Helen corrected. According to our sensors, the rest are spread across 6 systems. That is poor tactical positioning, by the way. She pressed a series of commands. I am sending an emergency beacon now. Authorization code, Martinez Delta 3. Terra Defense Force will classify this as a hostile engagement. There was a pause. When Kresh spoke again, his tone had changed. He sounded less certain. What are you doing? Activating my ship's emergency military protocols. Every civilian Earth vessel has them. It is standard procedure when we get annoyed. Helen's voice stayed calm and conversational. The beacon just sent our location, the situation, and evidence of your attack on the Quellan transport. Terra Defense Force will have received it by now. So what? Kresh tried to sound defiant. Your military is far from here. By the time they arrive, you will be dead and I will be gone. That is the thing about human military doctrine, Helen explained. We are extremely patient with diplomacy. We will negotiate and compromise and seek peaceful solutions. But the moment you threaten our civilians, especially after attacking others, the patience ends. She pulled up another display. The 6th Fleet was conducting exercises 2 systems away. They will be here in 40 minutes. 40 minutes, Kresh repeated. Then I have 40 minutes to finish this. No, you have 40 minutes to decide if you want to fight an entire Terra Fleet battle group. Because if you fire on this ship, if you harm one person aboard, they will not just destroy your 3 vessels here. They will hunt down every ship in your fleet. Every base, every hideout. That is what happens when humans get annoyed. We become extremely thorough. The communication channel went silent. Helen waited and watched the tactical display. The 3 pirate ships had stopped their approach. They were hovering and uncertain. Finally, Kresh spoke again. You are bluffing. Am I? Helen asked. Ask the Zelthari what happened when they called humans weak. Ask the Morgath Syndicate why they stopped raiding human colonies. Ask anyone who has ever pushed humanity past patience. She leaned forward. Or you could just wait 38 minutes and find out personally. Another long pause. Then the pirate ships began turning away. Their engines flared as they jumped to faster than light speed. Greg let out a breath he had been holding. They believed it. How did you know they would run? Pirates are opportunists, Helen explained. They prey on the weak and avoid strong opposition, and humans have a reputation. She closed the tactical display. The 6th Fleet really is 2 systems away, by the way. I checked before calling Kresh's bluff. That was not a bluff, Greg asked. Nope. The beacon was real. The fleet is coming. I just did not tell Kresh they were already investigating pirate activity in this sector. Helen smiled slightly. Sometimes annoyed means bluffing. Sometimes it means having a battleship nearby. The trick is nobody knows which until it is too late. 37 minutes later, the 6th Fleet arrived. They found the Unity safely escorting the Quellan survivors to the nearest station. They also received the sensor data from the destroyed Quellan transport. Warlord Kresh's fleet was hunted down over the next 3 weeks. Every ship, every base, extremely thorough, just like Helen had promised. The galaxy learned another lesson that day. Do not threaten human civilians, and if you do, make absolutely sure they have not said they are getting annoyed, because when they say those words, it might mean they are bluffing, or it might mean they already have a fleet on the way. And by the time you figure out which one it is, the decision has already been made for you. Either way, you lose. The only smart choice is to leave immediately the moment a human announces they are annoyed. Walk away, apologize, do whatever they want. Just do not stay and find out what happens next, because what happens next is never good for the person who made the human annoyed. The joint construction project on Kepler was supposed to be a showcase of cooperation between species. 7 different civilizations working together to build a massive orbital station. It would serve as a cultural exchange hub. The project was ambitious and expensive and very much behind schedule. Way behind schedule. Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks floated in zero gravity near the incomplete docking ring. He was reviewing structural reports on his data pad. The numbers were not good. The Tharnish construction team had installed their support beams at the wrong angle. The Kevaline had used weak welds. The Heptonians had not even started their assigned module. 3 months of work. 3 months of delays and excuses and cutting corners. Ryan had been patient through all of it. He filed reports. He made suggestions. He offered solutions. Always diplomatic. Always professional. He was getting really tired of being professional. Chief Brooks came a voice over the communication system. This is Supervisor Thelax. I wanted to inform you that my team will need another 2 weeks for the habitat ring. The specifications were unclear. Ryan closed his eyes and counted to 10 slowly in 3 different languages. Supervisor Thelax, we have been over those specifications 5 times. They are not unclear. They are in standard galactic engineering notation. Perhaps to human engineers, Thelax replied. But Tharnish methods require different approaches. We need time to adapt. You have had 3 months to adapt, Ryan pointed out. The habitat ring was supposed to be finished 2 weeks ago. These things take time. Surely you understand. Quality cannot be rushed. Ryan looked at the structural data again. Thelax's team had not even started the habitat ring. They had been sitting in their workshop for 3 months arguing about methods. I'm calling a mandatory meeting. All team leaders. Conference room 7, 1 hour. I'm afraid we are quite busy, Thelax began. It is not optional, Ryan interrupted. 1 hour, be there. He cut the connection. An hour later, the conference room was full. 7 species, 14 team leaders, all looking variously confused or annoyed or concerned. Ryan stood at the head of the table with a neutral expression. Thank you for coming. I have reviewed the progress reports from all teams. We are currently 93 days behind schedule. At our current rate, this station will not be complete for another 18 months. Supervisor Thelax made a dismissive gesture. These things happen on large projects. The schedule was always too optimistic. The schedule was realistic, Ryan corrected. It accounted for delays. It included buffer time. What it did not account for was multiple teams simply not doing their work. Several of the alien supervisors looked offended. A Kvaleen named Wretch spoke up. Are you suggesting we are lazy? We have been working hard. I am suggesting, Ryan said carefully, that you have been working on your own priorities instead of the project's priorities. Kvaleen Construction emphasizes artistic expression, which is fine, except this project does not need artistic expression. It needs functional welds that meet safety standards. You cannot rush art, Wretch protested. This is not art, this is a space station. If your welds fail, people die. Ryan pulled up a holographic display showing the Kvaleen team's work. Your welds are beautiful. They are also structurally weak. According to my analysis, they have a 43% chance of catastrophic failure under normal stress. The room went quiet. Wretch's color changed to something that might have been embarrassment or anger. That cannot be correct. It is correct, Ryan said. He moved to the next display. Tharnish support beams installed at incorrect angles. Heptonian modules not even started. Morgalian electrical systems installed backward. He looked around the room. Every non-human team is either behind schedule or below standards or both. Thelax stood up. This is insulting. You cannot expect every species to work like humans. We have different methods and different standards. Different methods are fine, Ryan said. Different standards are not. This is a joint project with agreed specifications. Everyone signed the same contracts. Everyone agreed to the same timeline. He paused. And now I am really getting annoyed. The Heptonian supervisor, who had been quiet until now, suddenly looked alarmed. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. Here is what is going to happen, Ryan continued in a calm voice. Starting tomorrow, the human team will conduct mandatory quality inspections on all work. Anything that does not meet specifications will be torn out and rebuilt by my team. At your expense, you cannot do that, Thelax protested. Read your contract. Section 14, paragraph 7. Quality assurance provisions. The chief engineer has authority to reject substandard work and charge corrections to the responsible team. Ryan pulled up the contract on the display. That is me. I am the chief engineer. Wretch's color shifted again. That will cost us millions, maybe tens of millions, depending on how much work needs to be redone. You should have thought of that before cutting corners. Additionally, Ryan continued, I am implementing a revised timeline. All teams will now report progress daily instead of weekly. Any team that misses a deadline will be replaced by contractors of my choosing. Again at your expense. The room erupted in protests. Multiple supervisors were talking over each other and gesturing and arguing. Ryan just stood there and waited. Eventually, they ran out of energy. Are you finished? He asked politely. This is tyranny, Thelax declared. We will file complaints with the Galactic Construction Council. Go ahead. They will review the progress reports, see the substandard work, and uphold every decision I have made. Ryan crossed his arms. Or you could just do your jobs properly from now on. Your choice. You humans, Thelak said bitterly, always so rigid and uncompromising. No, Ryan corrected. We are patient. I've been patient for 3 months while you ignored specifications and wasted time. But when we get annoyed, we get efficient. And right now I am extremely efficient. He smiled, though it did not reach his eyes. You have 24 hours to submit revised work schedules that meet the new requirements. After that, I start hiring replacement teams. Meeting adjourned. The supervisors left the room muttering among themselves. Only the Heptonian supervisor stayed behind. He approached Ryan with a respectful posture. Chief Brooks, the Heptonian said quietly, my team will have our modules completed within 2 weeks. You have my word. Good, Ryan replied. I always thought you were just waiting for the others to improve. Smart move. We Heptonians know the stories about humans who get annoyed. The supervisor's mouth parts arranged into what might have been a smile. Better to work with you than against you. The station was completed 4 months later. It was only 1 month behind the original schedule. The Tharnish, Kavaleen, and Morgalian teams had been replaced by human contractors after failing to meet the new standards. The Heptonian team finished early and under budget. The completed station was named Harmony Hub. It became a symbol of cooperation between species, though some species noted quietly that it looked remarkably human in its design, functional and efficient and built to exact standards. It was also built by a species that knew the value of patience right up until the moment they got annoyed. Then they simply got things done. Ryan stayed on as station administrator for 2 years after completion. During that time, he developed a reputation, fair but strict, patient but not to be tested. He ran the station with the same efficiency he had brought to its construction. Teams that worked well were rewarded. Teams that cut corners found themselves replaced quickly. The message was clear. Work with humans and succeed. Work against humans and regret it. The galaxy learned from Harmony Hub. Human engineers and construction teams became highly sought after for major projects, not just because of their technical skills, but because of their approach to problems. They documented everything. They followed procedures. They held everyone to the same standards, including themselves. And when things went wrong, they fixed them efficiently and thoroughly. Other species learned to appreciate this approach. Some adopted similar methods in their own work. Others simply made sure to meet human standards when working on joint projects, because nobody wanted to hear a human engineer say they were getting annoyed. That phrase meant the patience was over and the consequences were about to begin. Harmony Hub operated successfully for decades. It became one of the busiest stations in the galaxy, a true meeting place for different cultures and species, and it stood as a monument to what could be accomplished when species worked together properly, when they respected each other's time and effort, when they honored their commitments and met their obligations. The station proved that cooperation was possible, but it also proved that cooperation required standards, and humans were very good at enforcing standards, patient about it most of the time, but absolutely ruthless when their patience ran out. This was the balance that made human leadership effective, the combination of fairness and firmness, of patience and action, of giving chances and then delivering consequences when those chances were wasted. The galaxy respected this balance. Some species loved it. Some feared it, but all of them understood it. And that understanding made everything work better, because everyone knew where they stood with humans, everyone knew the rules, and everyone knew what happened when you broke them. The Galactic Historical Archives on Nexus Prime Station contained records of every major civilization in known space. Historian Velix of the Catherine Collective had spent decades studying how different species behaved. Today he was presenting his research to a gathering of scientists from across the galaxy. The auditorium was full. Velix's research had generated significant interest. His latest paper was titled Behavioral Patterns of Humanity. My colleagues, Velix began as his translator converted his speech into standard galactic. I have studied humanity for 23 of their years. What I have learned has fundamentally changed my understanding of predator species and their place in civilized society. A holographic display appeared showing incident reports from across human space, diplomatic negotiations, trade disputes, military conflicts, exploration encounters, thousands of interactions all carefully documented. Humans have a peculiar behavioral pattern that appears unique among spacefaring species, Velix continued. They display extraordinary patience in circumstances where other species would react with immediate aggression or retreat. They negotiate when they could attack, They compromise when they could dominate. They give warnings when they could strike without mercy. He highlighted several case studies. The Zelthari incident, the Kepler crisis, multiple pirate encounters, trade negotiations gone wrong. In each case, humans had given multiple opportunities for peaceful resolution. However, Velik said as his tone changed, this patience has a limit. When humans reach that limit, they announce it with a specific phrase. They say they are annoyed. Getting annoyed. Really annoyed. He paused. This phrase has become something of a cultural phenomenon across the galaxy. Some species treat it as a joke. Others understand its significance. I am here to explain why the second group is correct. A new set of data appeared. Battle statistics, economic sanctions, trade restrictions, construction projects completed against all odds. In every case, the turning point was the same. A human had said they were getting annoyed. When humans say this phrase, they are not just expressing emotion, Felix explained. Well, they are, but that is not the important part. They are issuing a formal declaration that patience has ended. From that moment, they switch from diplomatic mode to what they call problem-solving mode. He pulled up footage of Ambassador Jake Morrison during the Zelthari negotiation. Observe. For 6 hours, the ambassador maintains perfect diplomatic courtesy. Then comes the phrase. Note the change in behavior. The casual manner remains, but the actions become ruthlessly efficient. He had already positioned a fleet. He had already planned every step. The patience was not weakness. It was strategy. One of the attendees raised a tentacle. Surely this is just aggressive posturing. Many species issue warnings before combat. An excellent question, Felix acknowledged. But here is what makes humans different. Other species issue warnings as threats. They escalate. They give you time to prepare. Humans give you one chance to back down, and if you do not take it, the consequences are immediate and overwhelming. There is no escalation. There is patience, then action. Nothing in between. He displayed more cases. Every instance followed the same pattern. Humans would try every peaceful option first. They would negotiate and compromise and search for solutions. But once they announced annoyance, the situation resolved within hours or days. Always decisively in humanity's favor. Consider the merchant Carl Henderson, Velik said, showing trading records. He allowed repeated haggling attempts for days. He was polite and professional. Then came the phrase. Within minutes, he had activated communication networks that spanned the sector. The cost to the offending trader was immediate and severe. No violence. No aggression. Just extremely efficient problem-solving. Or Dr. Helen Martinez, Felix continued, a civilian scientist with no military authority. Yet when pirates threatened her ship, she had a fleet battle group available. Not because she was military. Because every human civilian vessel has protocols for emergency military support. The pirates did not know this until too late. Another scientist spoke up. This suggests an entire civilization built around deferred aggression. They suppress natural predator instincts until a specific threshold is reached. Precisely, Felix agreed. But it is more sophisticated than simple suppression. Humans have weaponized their patience. They use it to gather information and position assets and identify weaknesses. By the time they say they are annoyed, they have already won. The opponent just does not know it yet. He displayed construction project data. Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks dealt with substandard work for 3 months. 3 months of documentation and evidence and contract review. When he finally acted, there was no argument. No room for negotiation. He had built an unassailable position during his patient phase. So the phrase is a tactical marker, a signal that preparation is complete. Yes, though most humans probably do not consciously realize this, Felix said. It is cultural conditioning. They learn from an early age that patience is valuable, but also that there is a point where patience becomes enabling. The phrase marks that transition. He pulled up his conclusion slide. Why does every species run when a human says they are getting annoyed? Because those who did not learn to run are no longer around to warn others. The auditorium fell silent. Velix let the statement hang for a moment before continuing. The Morgoth Syndicate raided human colonies for 3 years. They ignored warnings. They dismissed diplomatic protests. Then one day after a particularly brutal attack, the human ambassador said he was getting annoyed. The Syndicate thought nothing of it. Velix displayed a star map. Within 6 months, the Syndicate ceased to exist. Not defeated, not conquered, systematically dismantled. Every base, every ship, every leader, Humans hunted them across 17 systems with methodical patient efficiency. The Drethak Empire tried to take human border worlds. They outnumbered humanity 5-1. The human response was to spend 2 years in diplomatic negotiations, while secretly fortifying every strategic position. When they finally said they were annoyed, the war lasted 3 weeks. The Drethak lost 30% of their fleet and asked for peace. The pattern is consistent across every major human conflict, Valix explained. Patience and more patience than overwhelming response. What appears to be restraint is actually preparation. What appears to be negotiation is actually intelligence gathering. And when humans say they are annoyed, it means the preparation is complete. Another attendee raised a question. But surely some conflicts are simply bad luck. Not every human has the resources to back up their warnings. An important point, Felix acknowledged. And you are correct. Some humans bluff. Some overestimate their position. But here is the critical factor. You cannot tell which ones are bluffing until it is too late, and the cost of guessing wrong is catastrophic. He displayed probability calculations. Based on my research, approximately 78% of humans who announce annoyance have already secured a winning position. Of the remaining 22%, half are bluffing but will still find a way to make you regret calling their bluff. The other 11% might be genuinely overmatched, but by then you have already committed to conflict with a species known for long-term vengeance. So the rational response is always retreat. Exactly, Velix confirmed. Even if the specific human might be bluffing, the civilization backing them is not. Humanity as a whole will respond to threats against their people. It might take time. It might take years, but the response will come and it will be thorough. Felix displayed his final slide. Why do we run? Because humanity has trained the galaxy to run. Every species that did not learn this lesson was removed from the equation. Those that remain have learned that human patience is a gift, not a weakness, and when that patience ends, the only intelligent response is immediate retreat or surrender. The presentation concluded to thoughtful silence. Finally, someone spoke. Your research suggests we have been thinking about humanity incorrectly. We treat them as a peaceful species with occasional violent tendencies, but your data suggests they are a violent species with remarkable self-control. Yes, Velix agreed. Humans evolved as persistence hunters on a dangerous world. They did not develop speed or claws or armor. They developed the ability to track prey for days or weeks until the target collapsed from exhaustion. That is still how they approach conflict. Patient pursuit until victory becomes inevitable. The phrase about getting annoyed is the moment they shift from pursuit to attack, and by then it is already too late to escape. Another researcher asked what his recommendation was for species dealing with humanity. Simple, Felix said. Be reasonable, be fair. Honor your agreements. Treat them with respect. Humans are genuinely patient and cooperative when dealing with good faith partners. They only become dangerous when you push them past that threshold. And if you hear a human say they are getting annoyed, run, Felix said simply. Apologize and back down and leave immediately. Do whatever they ask. Because if you do not, you will learn why humanity climbed to the top of their world's food chain despite being slower and weaker and softer than their predators. They just kept coming until the predators were extinct. The presentation ended. Felix's research was published across the galaxy within weeks. It became required reading for diplomats and traders and military commanders of E.